Coming up on the County Line, Westminster celebrates homecoming this weekend. We have the details.
And we have the latest update on the Jordan Brown case.
Plus, all your local sports updates are right here, too.
We're live.
We're local.
The County Line starts now. Good evening and welcome to the County Line. I'm Kylie Bennett.
And I'm Scott Lawrence. This weekend, the town of New Wilmington will seem a little more crowded than normal as Westminster hosts its annual homecoming weekend. With nearly 1,000 people expected to make the trip back to the WC, area businesses are gearing up for a busy weekend. Alums seeking a nostalgic bite to eat frequently stop by old haunts, including New Wilmington Shortstop Inn. Owner Carol Short says the inn can see up to a 40% spike in business. The TV Land themed weekend kicks off tomorrow with an afternoon tour of the campus for alumni, followed by a dinner reception. On Saturday, the 51st annual parade kicks off at 10:30 and will march down South Market Street. Then at 1:30, the football team hosts the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets. The presentation of the homecoming court will then take place at halftime.
Homecoming holds a special place in the heart of New Wilmington Mayor Wendell Wagner. The 1955 alum was an active member of both the college radio station and theater program. Now, 54 years later, Wendell reflects on his college days, still holding the faculty in high regard while recalling his fond memories of Greek life.
I think the caliber of the faculty, it was superb. Then on the other side, fraternity life was really my basis for my social life here. I met my wife at Westminster. KD she was a SIG cap, but the KDs were right next door, and there's always a great battle between those two. But and she just died in 2005. I worked radio. It was in the basement of the library. Very, very low power. You could probably hear it never out of town. I think that was it. But we did a lot of radio work, and then I did a lot of little theater work in the speech minor.
And for more details on this homecoming weekend, stay tuned for this week's County Close-Up, where our own Laurel Sprague sits down with Westminster Alumni Director Mary James.
When you drive into the borough of New Wilmington, you may have noticed that your speed is being shown to you on a neat little device called a speed board. But how effective has this device been in keeping speeds in the borough down? Chief Piccirillo says so far, so good.
The speed board in New Wilmington uses a radar to let drivers know how fast they are going. Police Chief Carmen Piccirillo says the sign has been very helpful.
I think it's been very effective, especially during the times when our school students are coming and going from school, and we have a lot of school bus and traffic from parents bringing their kids to school and picking them up after school.
Piccirillo thinks the board has been so effective that he is trying to install another. He explains the other board is very similar to the one installed in town.
We have another one to install that's identical to that one, and we just haven't made a decision yet exactly where to put it.
The 25-mile-an-hour speed limit has been extremely effective, especially for school hours. The board has been a helpful reminder of the speed limit. There are some who are still skeptical, but for the most part the town has seemed improving. This is Jeff Klein for the County Line.
And fall is in the air at the Apple Castle this weekend as they host their annual Fall Festival. Horse-drawn hay rides, apple cider slushies, and a performance by J.D. Eicher are only a few things on the agenda for the day. The event is free and open to the public. Owner Lyle Johnston tells us more about this weekend's Fall Festival.
Stay tuned for more County Line. We have the latest on a bizarre case of reckless endangerment.
And we have all the latest Hounds and Titan sports updates on this week's Titan Town Sports.
More County Line is on the way.
Pennsylvanians are killed each year trespassing at mines and quarries. I'm Kathleen McGinty, Secretary of Environmental Protection. Riding old mine sites and diving in abandoned quarries may look like fun, but those joyrides are suicide missions, and that diving is about dying. Emergency responders risk their lives on dangerous search and rescue missions. Mines and quarries are not playgrounds. They can kill you. Stay out and stay alive.
Police in Mercer County say 3 Newcastle men faced charges that they hogtied a naked Arizona man for 4 days before he could escape. Police say 32-year-old Drake Clark remains in the Mercer County Jail on reckless endangerment and other charges. Police are still looking for Clark's 37-year-old brother Ronald and 22-year-old Kylie Altman. All are from Newcastle. Southwestern Regional Police say the victim, 18-year-old Patrick Mendoza of Gilbert, Arizona, escaped from a rented home in Farrell on September 25th. Mendoza is back in Arizona. Police say Mendoza told them the suspects thought he stole drugs from them.
The 12-year-old Lawrence County boy accused of murdering his dad's pregnant girlfriend early this year in Wampum will go to court in December. A judge has scheduled a December 10th hearing to hear arguments on whether he should bump Brown's case down to juvenile court. Brown could go to trial in early January.
The New Wilmington Fire Department recently hosted their 55th annual fundraising auction. This year's auction was a true success for the firemen. Borough Council President Larry Wagner tells us that the firemen were able to raise an impressive amount of money to fund the station.
Money on hand or money deposited in the bank from early monetary donations from the surrounding community in Wilmington, and from the flea market, and the actual sale at night was in the area of $61,000.
The plans for the construction of the new Borough and Lawrence County sewer plant are inching forward this week. After receiving a violation from the DEP last year, the borough began looking into the construction of a new plant. At Monday's New Wilmington Borough meeting, Sanitation Director John Welker discussed where the process is now.
Originally, we had a violation from the DEP for influent going to our sewer plant that overloaded it. We've gone through the necessary steps and filed the necessary papers with DEP to take care of that and hopefully remedy it. And we are in the process of building, contracting out and going through the process of building a new, larger sewer plant to serve Lawrence and Mercer counties and the borough. And we should be having a meeting here hopefully by the end of the month with DEP that should tie up some loose ends.
Stay tuned. This week's County Close-Up is up next. We'll hear from Westminster Alumni Director Mary James about this year's homecoming festivities.
Following that, we have all the local sports highlights. More County Line is on the way.
We're playing in the woods. What is the matches and that's so good? Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very nice on a holy smile. So the gorgeous force is what you decide. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Only you can prevent forest fires. Fire.
Homecoming traditions at Westminster date back all the way to the early 1920s.
But the parade and football game, along with the homecoming corps, are just part of the events scheduled for the weekend.
On this week's County Close-Up, the County Lion's Laurel Sprague sat down with Westminster Alumni Director Mary James to discuss all the activities scheduled for the big weekend.
Well, hello there, Miss Mary James. You're the Director of Alumni Relations, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yes? Okay. Well, you must know everything about homecoming. How many years have you been doing this?
Well, I've been working with homecoming since 1989 when I started in the alumni office. And so I'm up onto my 20th homecoming and reunion weekend.
That's a long time. I was only 1 year old when you first started. My goodness. Now, wow, that's so many years. What is the history of Westminster's homecoming then?
Well, really, the 20 years that I've been doing it is just a short part of Westminster's history in homecoming. The first homecoming was in 1923, and I don't know what that schedule was, but I'm quite sure there were a lot of Westminster alums back on campus that were glad to be here and see what campus was like then. And then this year will actually be our 51st homecoming parade. So that's a little bit later addition to the festivities, but one of our favorite parts each year.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, this year, can you give me a rundown of some of the alumni events that will be happening? I understand they come in on Friday, correct?
That's right. We start Friday. Our first formal event is our Distinguished Alumni Lecturer Luncheon, and that's a little bit more of a behind-the-scenes event. And this year, with the English department and the Political Science and Sociology department have each invited an alum back to be speaking to the classes. So we get some alums back on campus to share their experience, and we'll be recognizing those folks at lunch. Our 50th plus alums, the alums that have been out for 50 years or more, will be back on campus that afternoon for the Golden Tower Society activities and campus tours, an opportunity to hear the Oregon and Wallace Chapel, a little bit of history about that. Then that evening we have an opportunity to honor our alumni for outstanding accomplishment, community service, and service to Westminster with the presentation of our Westminster Alumni Citations and Outstanding Young Alumni Award. And Dr. Becker from the class of 71 and Jan Wilson from the class of 80 and Dr. Anthony Pison from the class of 97 will be honored on Friday evening. So that's a little bit more formal start to the weekend. Then, of course, Saturday we kick off in the morning with hospitality areas welcoming hundreds of alums back. The parade is a very visible portion of the weekend that a lot of students are involved in. Then we have 4 different luncheons that'll be going on campus for a variety of reunion classes, and the athletic department is hosting some past football teams back. And then we have some other side things with campus tours. And then, of course, the Titan football game, which is a great favorite. And then some reunion dinners in the evening. So it's a full day of events.
Now, going back to the selected alumni that receive an award for this, how do you select which alumni and which proud student coming back to Westminster gets to receive such an award?
Well, it's a process that actually works through our alumni council. They take nominations from all alums, and our faculty are welcome to submit nominations as well. And then each year they look through that nominations pool and can award up to 3 alumni citations and 1 outstanding young alumni award a year. And it's always a wonderful event and very interesting to see what these alums are doing, and it really is a nice way to represent our liberal arts background. Dr. Becker is a professor at Emory and studies how healthcare works. Mrs. Wilson is a vocalist and works for the League of American Orchestras and is very much in the arts and the music. And Dr. Pison is actually a physician and works a lot with poison control and how to treat cases of poisoning. So we kind of see a variety of ways that our alums go from Westminster and what they can do. It's nice.
Wow. Well, they must be very excited to come back to their old stomping grounds. But now, I understand that there's a couple classes that get to be the judges of the big homecoming parade this Saturday. Why do alumni get to judge the event? Is it something that they just all want to do, or is it a way to include them in past memories?
A little bit of both. Well, first off, students, it would be hard to find enough students to judge the parade because we have so many involved on activities on campus. But for many years, the 50th class reunion has been coming back, and that's sort of a special treat for them as we honor them for their 50 years of connection with Westminster after their student years. So it's a nice way to involve them. They certainly remember when they were students and involved in the parade, and now it's fun for them to get to see the current students.
Oh, well, it makes them feel very special, of course.
Yes, yes.
So after the parade now, how are you making room for all of these? How many do you think are going to come this year?
Well, we know right now that we have over 200 for lunch in Witherspoon rooms, so we're working on that. We expect close to another 200 in Old 77, and that one, not everybody makes advance reservations for, so it's a little bit of a guess, but we have some history that we look back at. Then we'll have 2 groups meeting down in the club room and Berlin Lounge, and usually we come pretty close to filling those spaces as well. So
okay.
there'll be
Well,
lots of
one
folks.
last question.
Sure.
When's kickoff this Saturday?
Kickoff is at 1:30. We look forward to lots of alums down there to cheer on the Titans, and pregame begins at 1 with the introduction of the homecoming court and the performance from the band.
All right. Well, thank you so much with meeting with me today, and more County Line is coming right up.
Remember, if there's ever an emergency, we meet here at the bottom of the driveway.
And I'll get the emergency disaster kit out of the kitchen.
Once we're all together, then we'll decide what to do.
But what about Fido?
What about Fido? The Lawrence County Humane Society reminds you to include your pets in your disaster planning. Make sure that your pets have identification tags that include your phone number. To find out more about how to protect your pets in a disaster, contact the Lawrence County Humane Society.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a cool October edition of Titantown Sports. I'm Matt Ogden. The Wilmington Greyhounds were looking to stay perfect as they hosted the Hickory Hornets for Wilmington area's homecoming game this past Friday evening. Titantown Sports reporter Ryan Hitchcock has all the highlights from the game. The Hounds' homecoming loss marks both their first overall and District 10 loss of the season. They look to knock off their rivals, the Sharon Tigers, tomorrow evening at Sharon. After Westminster was edged off by the Thomas More Saints in their last game, they traveled to Teal College to take on the Bobcats. Here's all the nail-biting highlights from this past Saturday's PAC confrontation. Well, they ended up losing in the last couple seconds of the game. The Titans by 3 points on a 46-yard field goal. The Titans dropped to 1-4 overall for the season and 1-2 in the PAC. Titans look to defend their own turf Saturday in front of their alumni as they host the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets for Westminster College's homecoming. In other Titans sports, the Titans women's volleyball team hosted Waynesburg this past Tuesday evening, and they are looking to improve to 6-0 in the PACs. The Titans made quick work of the Yellow Jackets by a count of 3 matches to 1. Titans are in action again tonight when they host the Bethany Bison. The Westminster women's soccer team was also in action this past Saturday when they hosted the Penn State Baron. They didn't quite get the win they were hoping for, finishing the game in a 1-1 tie. The Titans are currently at 8-4-1 for the season, and they look to get that W on Saturday when they host Chatham this Saturday afternoon. Also in soccer, the men's soccer team has had a bit of a break in their season. Their last game was on Sunday against Thomas More Saints, and the men had a bit of a trouble with the Saints, dropping the game 2-1. The Titans will take the rest of this weekend off until Monday when they look to improve to 7-7 on the season as they welcome St. Vincent for an evening game. The men and women's cross-country team went a hop, a skip, and a jump over to Slippery Rock this past Saturday for the Slippery Rock Invitational. The women couldn't improve on their last invitational finish as they placed fifth respectively. The men, on the other hand, placed just above the women in 4th place. They look to run long distances again in 2 weeks when they travel to Ohio for the Oberlin Invitational. The women's tennis team finally fell for the first time this season in a match shortened because of inclement weather by a count of 7-1. The ladies look to return to the winning ways and improve to 11-1 when they host the Saints this upcoming Sunday. The Titans traveled to Teal College this past Saturday looking to be party poopers as Teal was celebrating their homecoming. Not a whole lot of action in the first quarter of this game, so we speeded on up to the second with Teal backed up, punting out of their end zone. Westminster kick returner Jordan Rooney is looking for some green pastures, and he might go all the way down to the Teal 12. Putting them in field goal range at least 3 plays later, Lee Hockey would make up for his interception earlier in the game with his 1-yard touchdown run, putting the Titans up 7-0 going into halftime. Still 7-0 in favor of Westminster until Willie Bova finds Ross Gorgano, and after a few moves, he would find his way into pay dirt, evening the score up 7-all. Later in the fourth, the Titans are punting from around midfield, but the punt is blocked. It would roll all the way back in the end zone, would be recovered by Bobby Shue for the Tomcats' special team score, giving them the lead 14-7. The Titans, though, would answer back on the very next drive as Nick McCloskey pounds it in from 1 yard out, 14-14. A mere 3 plays later, Willie Bova sending some airmail coast-to-coast postmarked for Brendan Taylor. Taylor would safely deliver the package 86 yards to the house, putting the Tomcats back on top, 21-14 with under a minute and a half remaining in the ballgame. The Titans would drive down the field in exactly 1 minute, capping off a drive with this touch pass to Old Faithful here, John Gubish, 21-all. John Madeline would run onto the field to attempt the game-winning 46-yard field goal, and it is good as time expires, giving the Tomcats the win on their homecoming 24-21. Well, there was the Titans losing a heartbreaker there by 3 points, and now we're going to have the homecoming highlights from the Wilmington area football game.
Although the week may have been dreary and it was raining before the game, the sun decided to show up at
All right, moving back to Westminster College, they recognize another outstanding athletic performance this week, naming women's volleyball outside hitter Tara Ott the SAC Athlete of the Week. Ott is a sophomore from Cedar Cliff who averaged 3.8 kills per set, helping the Titans take down Grove City and Washington and Jefferson to improve their record to 6-13 overall and still a perfect 5-0 in attack. Congratulations, Tara. Moving on to professional sports, with baseball breaking into October Madness and neither of our local teams in the hunt for a World Series title, focus shifts back to hockey as the Stanley Cup champions look to prove they won't have a Stanley Cup hangover this season. They lost to the Phoenix Coyotes last night by a mark of 3-0, and the Pens are in action again this evening as Sid and crew travel to Philadelphia to welcome newly acquired Chris Pronger to quite possibly the toughest rivalry in all the NHL. They are currently in action right now. Moving over to Cleveland, the winless Cleveland Browns made a big personal move this week when they sent struggling wide receiver Braylon Edwards to the Jets for 2 players and draft picks. They hope the move makes a positive influence on the team when they travel to Buffalo to try and stop the TO show. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. And also, the Steelers are riding high after the AFC Player of the Week, Rashard Mendenhall, led the Steelers to victory against the San Diego Chargers this past Sunday evening. The Steel Curtain looks to take that momentum into this week's game, along with perennial Pro Bowler Troy Polamalu, as he's expected to play in his second game of the season since partially tearing his MCL in Week 1. The team travels to Detroit to take on the Lions in the first time that they've been to Detroit since their victory in Super Bowl 40. Game is set for 1 p.m. Well, that's all the sports for this week in Titantown Sports. Thanks for viewing in. You stay classy, Lawrence County. More county is on the way right here on WCN.
Remember, if there's ever an emergency, we meet here at the bottom of the driveway.
And I'll get the emergency disaster kit out of the kitchen.
Once we're all together, then we'll decide what to do.
But what about Fido?
What about Fido? The Lawrence County Humane Society reminds you to include your pets in your disaster planning. Make sure that your pets have identification tags that include your phone number. To find out more about how to protect your pets in a disaster, contact the Lawrence County Humane Society.
And in this week's On the Road, we're heading to Cheeseman's Fright Farm. The fall weather is here, and it's a great way to have a good scare on this week's On the Road.
Cheeseman's is located in McConnellsville State Park.
Right now, we're on a haunted hayride.
And I'm really scared.
What are you expecting?
I have no idea. They gave me a little hint, but they didn't want to tell me too much. So, I don't know. People jumping out of the fields or whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
Nate, you're my buddy. That was so intense.
The Blair Witch. Watch out behind you.
Hey. Hey.
There's something back there. It's a snake or something. What?
Oh,
right behind you. Right there.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh, it's...
No.
You weren't scared? Did you scream at all?
Did you scream?
What was it?
I got scared. I got scared one time.
What was it that scared you?
There's this clown that jumped out of nowhere. My shoe fell off because I jumped back.
You get an interview real quick?
You want to
Talk about your latest movie.
How's life? Well, that was pretty scary, guys. What do you think, Nate and Danielle? I was petrified.
Yeah, it was scary. Chris, what'd you think?
Chris, where'd you go?
Gotcha! From Cheeseman's Fright Farm in the McConnell's Mill Park, this has been On the Road. We'll scare you later.
Homecoming weekend means a busy few days for New Wilmington Police as they prepare for hundreds of visitors and a jump in traffic. The borough plans on having all 5 of their officers on duty for the Saturday morning parade. Additionally, Westminster's own public safety will help with traffic control for the annual event.
Theatre Westminster hosts the premiere of Rabbit Hole tonight. The show deals with one family's struggles after the death of a child. The show continues with performances on Friday and Saturday at 7:30 and a Sunday matinee at 2:30. You can reserve tickets online at westminster.edu or pick up tickets at the box office.
That's the news for tonight's edition of the County Line.
Be sure to tune in next week for all your local news and sports coverage.
In the meantime, log on to WCN247.com for continuous coverage of your campus and community news.
Had a win over
Good
Oil
night.
City.
I was watching